Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Gaming Glories. This time, posting the results of my E3 2014 Gaming Glories last episode, where I predicted, well, not predicted, just sort of presented a meager list of options that the top three companies, Xbox, PlayStation, and Nintendo, all could just take note of for their presentation. That being said, I apologize for this video being super late, and I apologize for the original video being super late. That's why I don't do this kind of thing. So, I mean, not too often. Granted, I'm more than happy to talk with y'all, but this time I'm gonna try keeping it under an hour. I doubt that I'll be successful in that, but in case you have noticed the limit of the video, you'll find out right about now. So let's begin with our study and with our recap of E3 2014. This time, we are not going the way that I went originally. We're going the way that the initial meetings, these initial press conferences went. So it'll be Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo. I have all of the. If you guys just prefer to hear about what I have to say about one company, you can just hit the description down below, and that will find out. That'll help you find out where your interests lie. And with that being said, here we go with the X-Bone. Now, I've got to hand it to these motherfuckers over there at Xbox. Now, if you haven't heard any other reaction stories or recaps, what have you, which I think you probably have, since judging by how late this video is, regardless, I'm going to say what they all said. It was better than last year's. It was better by last year's by far, but once again, that's not a hard thing to accomplish. Yeah, you know that Charles Manson, he was a bad guy, but at least he's not Hitler. It's not a very bad. It's not a very good comparison. The fact that they did not knock it out of the park in comparison to last year is a concern. It's not something that I feel should be. I mean, once again, I'm going to show mercy on them because I don't know. At this point, it kind of feels like knocking on X-Bone is sort of like kicking a dog with a limp. It just it doesn't make anybody look like the good guy anymore until that dog with a limp turns around and bites you on your ass. That being said, no bites, no bite marks this year. In fact, I think that the X-Bone has done a brilliant job in ultimately selling me on a PlayStation 4 once again. And when I say that, I mean, let me recap. When I said in order for Xbox to win this year's E3, I said they need to come up, they need to follow a specific formula. And did they follow that specific formula? Unfortunately, no. Now, let me explain how. They did manage to pick up some pieces of what they fucked over last year. I will give them credit for this, and that was their primary issue last year, was do not mention Kinect or television. Now, I believe they mentioned their Halo TV series, was it? I can't seem to recall. But regardless, they managed to hardly ever mention. They didn't fucking bring up the Kinect like at all, which is a bonus. And when it comes to the television aspect, TV show, I'm not really happy you guys showed that, but it definitely showed that you have some self-control. And ultimately, I feel like, unfortunately, they did not sell me on The Division. It just felt like another Tom Clancy game, to be perfectly honest. It was pretty enough, though it kind of just looks about as pretty as The Last of Us, which, it still being pretty, was still a last gen sort of pretty. So our expectations and sort of graphical quality has sort of increased. Our expectations have increased since then. So even though it's a pretty game, graphically it's nothing all that special. That being said, like, granted, I'm not the type of gamer, obviously. By me, I mean, I would consider the fact that me playing like old school, mostly old school, relatively new, moderate, somewhere in between. I don't care about graphical quality, but when it comes to like these modern, semi new age graphical shoot 'em up games, it's all about the fancy graphics, and unfortunately, this game did not sell me on that. Plus, it just seemed to be the trailer for it just seemed to be sort of a generic, like a complete obscure idea of what the multiplayer of what big corporations think guys playing multiplayer is like. Oh, you better watch out over there. Oh, you gotta get him. I'm going in. Man, I bet those motherfuckers who came up with the goddamn obvious script for that game has never been in a multiplayer match in their entire life. Because let me tell you something, it does not go down that way. Oh my gosh. And let's see, what else was there? Oddly enough, they did not mention Quantum Break at all, as far as I'm aware. I mean, granted, the Halo TV series. Once again, I'm not sure on the movie or the TV series. It's something in Revelation to in fuck it in in response to Halo, some kind of new visual medium rather than interactive. It I'm still fucking it up. But I mean, granted, you do need to sell the Halo shit. I'm not denying that. But Quantum Break is not only an exclusive video game, the one exclusive you decided to focus on last year, but it was also one that was supposed to have a TV series attached to it. And now there's no mention of it. It's completely obscure to me. If you're going to announce freaking exclusives that haven't come out yet within a year, say something about them. I mean, the EA conference wasn't a glimmering light. If anything, it was one of the last decent things on in E3 this year. But at least they brought up Star Wars Battlefront. Granted, they brought it up in the worst possible way. At least they brought it up. At least we know that they say, hey, we're aware of the shenanigans in regard. We're well aware of the concern. And that's all they gave us. I wish they gave us an excuse. That's why our concerns are being met. But at least they're addressing our concerns. And once again, backwards compatibility wasn't announced, and a new model wasn't announced. It still looks like a goddamn VCR or a DVD player, one or the other. I'm not picky here, but I mean, what am I kidding? I'm extremely fucking picky. The new Model X Bone was not a dream come true. It died, but unfortunately, I'm still not even close to being sold on the X Bone. Why? Because they don't have anything that's worth anything in my personal eyes, except for maybe one thing they sold us on, and that was on Sunset Overdrive. I believe that's what it's called, which does look like a very entertaining, colorful experience. That being said, I also find it very ironic that soldier shooters were being made fun of right after they showed off the Call of Duty bit. If they hadn't have shown off Call of Duty, then I would have actually taken more of an interest in Sunset Overdrive than what was to be expected. But there's still that sidestep there, and it's just like, why would you make fun of the thing that you're also trying to sell at the same time? It just felt like they were trying to appease too general of an audience. They didn't have a proper lockdown on it. Yeah, we're all sick of first-person shooters and soldiers and Brown, and then suddenly, and that was, I guess, supposed to be the implication. And once again, it was implied right after the new Call of Duty. I mean, yeah, it's not much of a preference anymore, but you know, you can't have your cake and eat it too, fellas, okay? either decide whether or not you people at Microsoft like or hate brown soldier first person shooters, okay? Don't just beat around the bush, which is definitely what you did. And the whole shenanigans with the new Fable thing, everybody vomited. Nobody clapped when they saw the new Fable game. It was terrific. Not a single clap of applause. And they clapped for friggin' for all of the other possible things. They clapped for PlayStation. I'll save it. I'll save it for my PlayStation review. But granted, there were so many worse things that they could clap at, in my opinion. But I don't know. I think they buried the Fable franchise with Fable 3. I've never been into the series myself, but I know it has some goddamn hardcore metal ass fans in its fucking utility belt. You couldn't bring one of them to the conference and they say, hey, new Fable, maybe you pissed those guys off too. I don't have any clue about that. And with that being said, I want to bring up the final nail in the coffin that stopped Xbox dead, fucking dead in its tracks from getting anywhere near the finish line in terms of quote unquote winning this year's E3. And that was our good, completely unknown to us friends at Project Spark, who seemed to learn a whole bunch from Peter Molyneux, in which they hype up their game to shit, telling us that we can do anything we want whenever we want. And granted, it just seemed like a meh title, but goddamn, they shot themselves in the fucking gonads when at the end of the trailer they show none other. I'm sure you've all seen it before, and if not, then I'm certainly glad to be your first source. They just see walking in fucking motherfucking Conker, and he says, "Huh, 10 years without a game," or what was it, 20 years? 10, 20 years. No, it wasn't 20. 10 years without something. 10 years without a game. Well, isn't that funny? Well, better go make our own. Oh my god. And you bring him up just so that because his model, this freaking X-Bone Gary's model is in this fucking Project Spark. Are you fucking stupid, okay? I can't even begin to tell you how badly that hurt a fan of the N64 just watching that. A fan of Rare, a fan of retro games, a fan of just about everything that Conker stood for. And you address the fact that that people want him back, and you address the fact that people want a new game of his, and you say, here's his character model. Okay, you learned some from last year's conference. You learned some of how not to fuck up. You learned most. One of the key things that you failed to listen to, however, is to completely address somebody's fucking interests, okay? Like, you make me feel bad for wanting a new Conker game. Yeah, I get it. He's in his model or some voice clips are in the new game. Whoop-de-fucking-do. It's not a new Conker game. Conker isn't the only thing that sells fucking Conker. It's his universe. It's all the interesting characters. Did you introduce the Great Mighty Pooh in that freaking commercial? No. Did you introduce like the freaking flowers with tits on in the commercial? No. You just bought him. You just put him in a game and said, all the people will flock to us, or just flicked the audience off and just walked off the stage. In fact, I dare say that would have been a fucking better thing to do than what you did with your Project Spark. I've got a personal vendetta against Project Spark now. And this is coming from a fan. One of the fans who, I don't know if you're trying to oblige me, compliment me, or insult me, because I certainly as fuck feel insulted by that. Oh man. You fucked up. Whoever was on the marketing for that fucked the hell up. Oh my god. No, Xbox did not win. It was better than last year. That doesn't say much. That being said, they certainly had more exclusives than Sony. Sony, you won last year. Now, you won how? By simply doing what you do. You simply said, here's a few games, we're keeping things the way they are, the end. And with Nintendo's sales and game releases being very far under the radar, and with everybody fucking exploding because of the announcements at the X-Bone, you managed to skate through with little to no repercussion. Now, that being said, you could have very well done it twice and almost gotten the crown twice. What you decided to do instead was jerk around for a bit. You guys were the new Nintendo conference of last year. Why? Because you had some fantastic games to show. You had some fantastic trailers to show off. Granted, Nintendo had nothing to show off last year other than the new Smash, and that pretty much sums up the last year. I don't even remember what the hell happened at Nintendo, to be perfectly honest, of last year anyway. But you had some fantastic trailers this year introducing a couple of brand new games, most of the best games that you showed off, we already knew about being one of the starting issues. I mean, at least Xbox and EA and, was it Ubisoft, they had, most of them, I'm not sure about Ubisoft, I unfortunately didn't get to see most of Ubisoft's conference, but at least they had the balls to show off something new and inventive, while you guys showed us things that we're already aware of. You showed us Project 1886, which I'm still looking forward to. That being said, the trailer that they showed at the E3 was a complete piece of shit. They even released a trailer within the next couple days later that looked 10 times as better and more interesting and actually contained gameplay. Why? Why would you do this to us? I don't... And also, Johnny's favorite introduction from this year's conference was fucking Project Beast, aka Bloodborne. Now, we already saw screenshots, and this brings me to one of my most prominent issues with this, is that why didn't we get any gameplay footage at this year's PlayStation? We got a couple. We got Little Big Planet 3, which with all due respect, I'm not too interested in. Now, granted, I feel good for the people who are Little Big Planet fans, but first of all, we saw this thing coming. Second of all, it's not a major title, fellas, and that was one of the only gameplay footage you had of any of your games. Why? I mean, at least you also had the Arkham Knight footage, which you also had. But once again, we were 100% on the ball. We were aware that was going to show up, and I also feel like they didn't introduce enough exclusives. They introduced none, practically none, coming this year. And this reminds me, there was an issue with both conferences, okay? And with both Xbox and PlayStation. You're using the goddamn conference, the goddamn biggest sales and video game sales event of the year, and you're wasting valuable minutes of your hour to hour and a half conference to introduce DLC. Fucking DLC for games that are already out. I don't care how expansive the DLC is, or maybe if it's considered like a whole nother fucking game. If it's an entirely separate game that happens to have the same title on it, then maybe I can see it happening. But this was just straight up DLC. The Dead Rising and the First Light for the infamous Second Son. It's unbelievable. Why can't we get any exclusives coming this year for PlayStation? Shit that we care about. Off the top of my head, nothing is coming up that's PS4 exclusive. If I'm missing something, you'll have to forgive me, because as far as I can tell, no heavy-hitting, best-selling freaking PlayStation exclusives are coming to the PS3. At least the Xbone had the balls to show Sunset Overdrive. Once again, that was the only thing that I ultimately said, okay, that seems to be something that I can be interested in, that I can take interest in. Good. Good job, Sony. You won. You have nothing. Now, granted, I don't feel like exclusivity. In fact, I'm against exclusivity. I'm completely against the aspect of goddamn exclusives. And let me explain why. Because I feel like the whole ideal behind exclusivity being required of certain consoles would be, once again, comparing it to movies, like if Disney came out with its own DVD player and saying it only plays Disney DVDs, or there are DVDs of Disney's that are exclusive to DVD brand DVD players. So, with that being said, I find it completely ridiculous, but given that it is a capitalistic atmosphere and exclusives are almost unavoidable as of right now, I guess in a way that we sort of need to have the satisfaction of exclusives in order to have competition within the course of at least this video game generation. And with being that there are no exclusives that are, to my mind, coming out this year, no big ones anyway, why'd you even bother showing? Why'd you bother giving us an hour and a half freaking conference? Almost far longer than both Nintendo's direct and Xbox's press conference almost combined. You could have shortened up half of that shit. In fact, I decided to stop watching at a certain point, but that's another point. I'm going to save that for later. In the meantime, I wanted to talk about at least they brought Project Morpheus. They brought it up. They showed us the design. They didn't show jack shit about it. They didn't show somebody wearing it. They didn't show any footage of somebody using it. They just sort of showed it on the screen and said, "Hey, look, there it is. You sheep, you fucking sheep. Fuck you. God damn it. I want to know something about Project Morpheus. Don't just show me a pretty futuristic looking friggin' device and just say, yep, here it is. Can it do anything? No, it's a picture. What the fuck you should do something with what you're showing us. Don't just show us the magic hat and say, hey, it's magic. Do something magic with it. No, Why? Because I didn't study the magic. But it's a magic hat, though. It just didn't make any sense to even bring it up at that point. Now, that being said, they did bring a software focus, which I appreciate, except they showed off the sales of the PS4 camera. Good for you? Good. No, okay. I mean, it's a camera and it sells some. I'm sure you feel good about yourselves. I could completely care less. I could so fucking care less about that. And the fact that you brought it up makes it even stupider. But the stupidest fucking thing in the Sony press conference was, I mean, granted, there were stupid bullshit things in the Sony conference. Now, the most stupidest thing, however, was remember that time when I mentioned in the previous Xbox coverage that I mentioned earlier, if you saw that, about how nobody clapped for Fable? A ton of people decided to give up outrageous amounts of applause. And for what? A goddamn YouTube app. The fucking the thing that the fucking Wii U, that the fucking Xbone and the Xbox 360 already have. And they didn't even address the matter. Hardly ever. I believe Nintendo showed it off at one point, but it certainly wasn't during a direct conference that I was aware of. It's just so mind-blowing how little you have to show. It shows us how unprepared you were for this year's E3. Granted, I wasn't expecting much from you, to be perfectly honest. I wasn't expecting too much from you to show off here at today's E3. I mean, not today's, but last week's. Anywho, until you showed off your E3 ad where you showed this whole Tronverse thing. It was a little teaser, but it's made me believe something was gonna happen. And by God, did nothing happen. You showed off some cool games. Honestly, more games than I'm interested in terms of Xbox. But in terms of the general audience as a whole, you served us no exclusives that are coming this year. No real gameplay other than a few segments here and there. Little snippets that you use to sort of curve those of us who would criticize you if you didn't have any gameplay footage whatsoever. It didn't stop me, motherfuckers, let me tell you what. And, I mean, granted, I am still far more of a Sony pony than I'll ever be an X-boner, by any extent of the imagination. But, by God, did X-Bone actually outdid you, Sony? They actually outdid you, because they didn't introduce complete shit. They introduced to us games. Not good ones. Not too many good ones anyhow, but still they made their focus games. They did not stall. Well, okay, some of them did stall. They did stall at times. But they gave us the games that we were all looking forward to, and some of which we weren't certain whether or not they would ever be shown in the near future. And I mean, I'm like I said, I'm not a big fan of the series, but at least they showed off. More of Halo Guardians. That being said, I always thought it was a game that was going to be based off of the one of the worst movies ever, in my opinion, Halo Legends, the anime. I think it was called Halo Legends or Halo Heroes, but it's not Halo Heroes. I know that for a fact. But regardless, Sony, you guys, I mean, I certainly, like I said, I saw more games that I enjoyed at the PlayStation side of things, but in terms of a general audience, you definitely lost a whole bunch of them. And fucking Broforce, I'm fucking glad. I am so thrilled to have Broforce on my PlayStation 4. I sent a direct tweet to Yoshida asking for Broforce, and guess what? I got it. I am thoroughly happy. But once this new Sony president of America, whoa, I almost dropped my phone there. Once the new Sony president of America came on stage, everything just died for me, and I'm pretty sure a lot of other people watching, because he was not about the games, no sir. He was about selling. He was about selling your console and doing whatever it takes, handling the anonymous general audience that every video game company tries to appease but ends up sealing their fate. Like, oh my god, when he wouldn't fucking shut up about the new produced movie series, I can't even remember what the fuck it was about. I can't even remember what it's called, but he introduced some kind of new sponsored television show that was, as to my knowledge, as of right now, never part of any video game that I am aware of. No video game tie-in, just that it was a Sony sponsor. You might as well have had a fucking. You might as well have just shown off a commercial for Sinister Six, the movie, or I don't know, fucking Amazing Spider-Man 3, or any other licensed character from Marvel Sony that Sony still owns. You might as well have shown one of those, because they're sure as hell about as relevant, to my knowledge, as that fucking TV show. And then, to top that off, you then show a Ratchet and Clank movie. Good for you. I'm not a fan of Ratchet and Clank myself, but I know plenty of people who are. So good for you for acknowledging that it exists. That being said, I would have strongly preferred a fucking video game over that bullshit. Don't. The moral of the story, PlayStation, is stop bullshitting us. No, don't. The more you focus on games, the higher your ratings will go up. That's what you did last year, and that was you just doing what you do. That won you the cup last year. You didn't do that this year. Instead, you decided to rip out a page from Microsoft's fucked up conference last year and decided to spit in the face of so many people. Granted, you didn't do anything to offend too many people, but you maybe spit in the face is a little too exaggerative. Maybe just fart in the general direction of your audience and just walked away. That's what you did by focusing on all the apps, on all the TVs, on all the cameras, on all the movies, all that bullshit. And what's worse is that granted, one of the best things that they showed off was how Vita TV works, now PlayStation TV. Thank God they changed that name. But I feel like I'm sort of disappointed with the way it turned out. I wish it played an initial PS3 and or PlayStation 2 games. But I'm still interested in it. Still waiting for that price. I mean, granted, I believe they said it was $100 last year. Not sure. I can't remember whether or not they mentioned the price this year. But I considered it a bonus. That being said, now that I know that the PS Now is really nothing short of... I mean, at least they didn't clarify it exactly. But they gave us a clear idea of what PlayStation Now is. And what it is essentially the Xbox Arcade for the PlayStation. Now, granted, it's probably better than it'll probably be better than the Xbox Arcade, given that PlayStation has a longer history of games. But I am disappointed that it isn't the thing that just says, hey, not only can you buy these old games you've never had before, but you can also play the games that you already bought that we're pretending don't exist, so that you can buy a slightly more updated version. That is what I feel like all remasters, all HD remakes are about. Unless they build them from the ground up, I'm not interested. Now that being said, I will be getting whatever PS3 titles that I missed over my love for the 360, which probably will never die. It'll still be somewhat warm in the future. I mean, my favorite game came on there. I played my favorite game on there for the first time, for Christ's sake. But I digress. Last thing that I wanted to bring up was that it was something that I didn't know beforehand when I previously made my last video. But one of the things that I was particularly excited about was Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy 15. Apparently they had... Oh, shit. Sorry. Okay, thank you, computer. I apologize for that. But regardless, no Kingdom Hearts coverage at all. None. Zipperoo. Dead. And no Final Fantasy 15 footage. The two Sony, primarily focused Sony titles, and they give us nothing. They give us fucking nothing. They say, nah, we're not planning on doing that. We're busy doing other shit. Like Rise of the Tomb Raider. Oh, Lord, what a shitty title. But, hey, Bloodborne's still there, and it's nice to know they're introducing an indie segment every year. Xbox did that too, come to think of it. But Sony, I'm conflicted on which was the worst conference, because overall I'd say Xbox had a better conference overall, a better, less boring conference, but then they just spat in the face of everybody. And then PlayStation, they were just bored. They just farted in our general direction. So whichever you prefer, I'm gonna leave it up to you, since it isn't really about second or third place. Like, pretty much getting to this now, you'll know who wins. But regardless, I feel like it's up to you to decide whether or not you prefer farts or spitting in your eyes. It's up to you. So I don't care who won of the two, because neither one won the championship. Boom. Now, before I start getting into the discussion about Nintendo, I want to make absolutely clear that despite all of the hate that I've had to discuss between PlayStation and Xbox, all the disappointments, all the letdown, all the farts, all the spits, I want to make something absolutely clear. This is a Gaming Glories video. So with that being said, dun, 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 dun. Oh my lord, that is what I am going to think of whenever I hear the Mario theme now. At least for this year, because goddamn did freaking Nintendo come out of their goddamn way. Just swerve, kick, bam, Xbox, bam, Sony, bam, everybody else in the fucking world who does not have a Wii U, who does not have a 3DS, who does not have any interest in Nintendo. They curb stomp those motherfuckers, and it makes me so happy. It makes me so happy. I can't even... While I was watching the Direct, I lost count of how many goddamn games they introduced. Some out of the blue, some familiar, just all around games, just vomiting them out. And not only that, but they did for some of their some of their titles, some of the titles that some of us have been looking forward to, and some of us who never thought it. They said, "Oh yeah, by the way, this," and they just left it there with no hype. They didn't hype it up. They didn't use a fade. They didn't use dramatic voices and dramatic music. They didn't do any of that sort. They just, boom, hey, you want a game? Here's a game. You like games? Here's another one. Here's another one. Eat all the games because they're stuffed in my mouth. I just fucking loved Nintendo this year. Much like every other schmuck in the world, I fucking love Nintendo now. In fact, it was really funny. Like, the day before the E3 conference. I swear to God, it was the day before the Nintendo Direct conference. I bought a Wii U. I went out and bought myself a Wii U after learning of a recent management. After a recent meeting with the people who own their stocks, they say, "Hey, we're not going to drop the Wii U until everybody is thoroughly satisfied with it as a gaming console." And they fucking delivered, and I am kissing my Wii U just all over. I'm just so happy and so glad that I not only bought the console, but I bought it just as soon as it became just super fucking awesome. I am so glad to own it. And best of all, best of fucking all, most of what they mentioned was going to be released this year. There was no coming 2015, see more 2015. It was, this is coming out this year, end of story. And as far as I'm aware, Nintendo isn't the kind of company that pushes release dates. They release on time, on schedule, and they deliver, for the most part, whatever they want. It's fucking amazing. I mean, yeah, they don't have a 3DS to Wii U system yet, which I was disappointed not in seeing. But I don't even care because both consoles are getting so many more games now. The whole libraries are just exploding. Like, there are familiar titles like Smash Bros, fucking New Legend of Zelda, New Zelda, oh my god. And oh my god, it looks so beautiful. It looks like Skyrim, and like a beautiful, beautifuler Skyrim. Just lights shining everywhere, and then there was like Link with the cross and with like his bow and arrow that was like super steampunk and awesome. Although supposedly he may not actually be Link at all, which is interesting as well. Oh my gosh, and oh, so many more games. Mario Party 10, fucking Mario Maker, not only being, I mean, granted, I'm still mostly indifferent to it, but they make it seem so simple, and I appreciate that. Not only that, but it's also available to be made with like the new Super Mario Brothers U engine, which came the fuck out of nowhere to me personally, and best of all is that they introduced new licenses like freaking Splatter, what was it called? Splatoon, and goddamn Giant Robot. They didn't show much of Giant Robot, but it's still in production, which is fucking amazing. And the commercials they did, they were not only made of gameplay, but some of them just went on for full-on meme-worthy content, like the battle between Iwata and Reggie Fils-Aimé in the beginning. Oh my god, it makes me so happy. And the fact that they introduced like fucking 3 characters, exactly what I was suggesting. 3 minimum characters. They introduced boom Palutena. They introduced boom me. They introduced yeah, me, a Wild Silas, is personally in Smash Bros. No, they introduced the Mii system, in which you can customize your own Wii and your own Mii and just put them in, give them an assigned set of moves, and these are customizable moves, which are based on other Smash characters. Holy shit! And last of all, let's see, what was the last one? There was another one. Fucking Pac-Man. It's still no Green Ranger, but I don't give a shit. I'm so excited for Smash Brothers. It's so amazing. And, oh man, I'm choking on my own words here. I'm so hyped. But they didn't introduce any third-party software, any new hardware. They didn't introduce no gadgets, no extremities whatsoever. But they released the fact that Bayonetta 2 is going to be paired for Bayonetta, both on the Wii U and still at $60. Holy fucking shit. That requires like 2 independent teams working on that, because it's never been on the Wii U. Bayonetta's never been on the Wii or the Wii U. So anybody playing Bayonetta 2 will be able to play Bayonetta first and be able to have full experience. Not only that, but they'll be able to have a fuller experience because it comes with new content that wasn't available previously. Holy goddamn monkey on a stick. Oh, damn. Oh, did I scratch my computer? No, it's all good. I just can't believe Oh my god, I love it. I and fucking when you see freaking Shigeru on the screen and he's talking about making games, you can fucking see Star Fox on his computer, and it's completely unfamiliar. It's a whole new game, and they said that yeah, we're working on it, and they said it's not ready yet, but the point is they are working on it. And that is so beautiful. We haven't seen a half decent Star Fox game since Assault. And I mean, I'm not including 3D because it was more of a remake anyway. But it was so beautiful. It was so beautiful. I love it. Oh my god. Oh my god. Fucking, you knocked it out of the park. Fucking Yoshi's Woolly World. I'm so hyped for that shit because it takes Kirby's epic yarn and Yoshi's Island and just collides them, makes them beautiful together. Just this beautiful smash baby. Just hit them, make them get woolies. You get woolly freaking world, fucking Woolly World. Yoshi's. Oh god. I just. Goddamn. And I am almost certain, just by looking at the gameplay, that it is several times as better than fucking Yoshi's new piece of shit island that just came out for the 3DS. I was mad at that. But just from this content alone, and best of all, they just about showed gameplay for every one of the games that they introduced or mentioned in this in their freaking direct. It's not even technically a presentation. It's just something they do when E3 rolls around. When their competition is coming a calling. They also introduced new things, new ways to utilize the Wii tablet. Granted, I'm mostly indifferent to the Wii tablet as of right now, but it's just so amazing that they're actually being able to utilize what months ago, just a couple months ago, people were going to say, when is it gonna die? When is Nintendo going to eventually fall out of the market? And then Nintendo rose out of the ground and said, we're not dead yet. And boom games, boom games, boom games, boom content, boom gameplay, boom game trailers with gameplay. Oh, wow. Wow, guys, I'm so happy. So happy right now. Oh, I just put down my glasses. I'm exhausted. Nintendo, welcome back to the fold. I never doubted you. Everybody else did, more or less. That being said, I'll still buy you a beer anyways. So, I think that concludes my whole spiel about E3 2014. Goddamn, do I regret this? I may do this next year if I manage to produce the time, but we will see. So yeah, I'm not going to summarize my my video up. The reason why, because somebody could just skip up to the end and just hear what I have to say just right off the bat. So I'm looking at you, Captain. Oh man, I'm only 10 minutes from it being an hour's freaking video. Alright, okay, you know what, I'm just gonna cut it off right here. Bye, stay wild.